had a ceiling that I'd reached, and that's where the entrepreneurial instinct or incentive came in. AI helps. It should be used as a tool to not supplant what you're doing, but to enhance it.
It sounds like a lot of notice has been taken for a small percentage, and that blows out the overall perspective, I guess.
The firm's growth has been majority through referrals.
I want to talk to you a little bit about AI adoption. Cash flow is always oxygen in any business, right?
I think building a strong team is very important because your foundation is as strong as that team.
Welcome to the podcast From Cold to Close. My name is Saeed and I'm the founder here at SRC Growth Partner, a growth company that helps professional services firms from around the world increase their revenue and profitability by acquiring new clients. My guest today is Inderjit Sindhu, the founder and founding attorney of Inderjit K Sindhu ESQ, a law firm that specialises in areas of investments and business immigration. Indy has been practicing for 20 plus years, navigating her clients through the complexity of the immigration process, and has worked with a diverse client base from startups, IT, biotechnology, pharma, financial services, private equity, private investment banks, and medical practices. Prior to launching her own practice, Indy held the positions of Corporate Counsel for software development companies in Michigan and New Jersey, working directly with CEOs on corporate road mapping, restructuring, mergers and acquisitions of high-value assets, employment law, and litigation. Indy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
I always try and give as good an intro as I can at the start of every episode, but I rarely do it as well as the guest themselves would be able to do. So I always like to start off the guest to maybe share with the viewers and listeners who you are and how you arrived at the position you are today.
Always a great question. I'll try to give it some justice. So I'm a Canadian and I came to the US as a student and I went through that path. And after I graduated law school, I was engaged as general counsel for software IT company in Michigan. And then I moved to New Jersey. And a large part of the experience as corporate counsel was, making sure that you're tapped into many facets of the organization, right? So employment law was always good. It was always high and critical. Any asset acquisitions, software, acquisitions, product lines that I was involved in heavily. And, as a software company, acquisition of elite talent was always in the forefront. Technology is so interchanging, developing at such a fast rate. It was always really important for the organization to be ahead of the curve when it comes to talent acquisition. That's how I got started. So it was a very organic growth. And then having done it for 13, 14 years, you realize that I had a ceiling that I'd reached. And that's where the entrepreneurial instinct or, incentive came in. And so, so then I founded my firm, which is a very, very much a boutique firm. We are very bespoke in terms of the services we provide to our clients. We deal with and address a lot of cross-border issues, but we also have domestic issues. And I'm able to tap into a lot of the domestic issues like employment law based on my role as a corporate counsel. And so some will try to pigeonhole on my firm and my team into just being business immigration attorneys or just being in one silo. And I'm happy to say that that's a discredit to them because, they always underestimate what we can do. And we do bring a diverse experience, which just helps elevate our representation of our clients.
I think it's really interesting you mentioned that. And in terms of the journey you had into your entrepreneurial journey and the 13, 14 years in industry and working in your career and hitting that ceiling, and that tends to be so common amongst most entrepreneurs and feeling like, they start a career and they go into an avenue where they know that they've developed an expertise in some area. And it's just a case of being able to go out there and being responsible for your own reality, right? And going out there and killing what you eat, as they say. And so I think it's really interesting to hear your journey to where you are today. And I love the fact that you don't see yourself as just business immigration, or the team itself has an array of opportunities within themselves to be able to tackle different kinds of tasks. So it's always interesting. So in terms of then your typical clients, what do your typical clients look like? How do you serve them?
So we have several types of clients. So we've got the corporate client, and our corporate client we don't say, okay, we're not going to represent anybody less than XYZ. Our client has a need, we provide that service for that need. Our corporate clients, they're typically looking for three things, right? Either they're looking for assistance with client acquisition, and that's where the business immigration expertise comes in. We've assisted our corporate clients in that acquisition of the talent that they need to service their products and services. That's one. There's the high net worth clients that we have who are looking to come to the U.S., want to invest in the U.S. We work with them. And part of that service is a forensic accounting component, right? We need to make sure in any type of investment, any type of cross-border source of funds is so very important. And so we are very meticulous in terms of how we present our clients' financial strengths, which will help with their journey that they want. And now we have creative artists and professional athletes that we work with in not only being able to work and play within the U.S., but their long-term goal of possibly permanent residency and U.S. citizenship. So depending on our clients, it is a different journey, but underlying it all is our services are bespoke to that particular client. Right. So we begin with trying to understand what is their short-term and long-term goals. Short-term, this is what we're going to do. Long-term, this is what we need to do. And that's how we've always approached our clients.
Yeah, I love the attitude and the different silos in which the types of clients have and the different journeys that they have with you. And especially you mentioned there that you have high net worth clients investing into the US and from overseas. And I imagine with US being one of the largest global markets, that's a huge market in itself. How has the current volatile climate affected these types of clients?
Understandably, everybody's concerned. There's a certain level of stress that's been involved. And we try to manage the stress as much as we can. And I've been doing it now for close to 25 years. And we've have experienced 6 to 7 different presidential administrations. That has helped us in terms of identifying what may be possibly, we can anticipate some delays, but at the end of the day, we're going to get our results. And I think it's the delay that causes the anxiety because, we start off with, we anticipate we're going to go from point A to point B in, 13 months. And then there's a change in administration that time frame changes and it takes a bit longer, but we do get to the end destination. That's the key, is that when we roadmap out short-term and long-term, we roadmap it out with the regulations and compliance in mind. So long as regulations and compliance is in mind, what we don't have control is the timeframes. But having gone through the different types of experiences, I have to say that probably 95% of the time I've seen it. So we know how to deal with it and how to address it. And that is a benefit of experience.
Absolutely. I think that speaks volumes in the sense that a lot of the time when someone is working with an expert, it's the experience that they are reliant on, especially when things feel volatile or things feel like they're going into a different environment. What are the biggest trends you're currently seeing in the market, in the space at the moment, and what are your biggest predictions?
That's a really good question. So what I'm seeing is that there's still a huge interest, right? So has there been a chilling effect? No, I don't think there has been. I think one of the frustrations we experience is we have a set of, okay, we need X, Y, Z. We can't do it. We have to get it from our clients, right? They have to do some of the groundwork here. And what may have been accepted as, what I would call bare bones in 5 years ago or 10 years ago, or for that matter, even like 2 years ago, that's not the case anymore. So we need to be hyper vigilant and we need our clients to be hyper vigilant. So yeah, I see that as a challenge that we do have. But in terms of market trends, yeah, I'm not seeing a chilling effect. I think it's just what is daunting for clients is the additional documentation we recommend that previously they'd be like, but now it's like, no, you have to do this. We need you to do this. It's a strong recommendation. And if you don't take our recommendation, this is going to be possibly an outcome. And we try to avoid that as much as possible. But in terms of chilling of the market, I haven't seen it yet, hoping. This trend continues. We don't see a further chilling, because I know that, the reports and coming out can be very concerning. But I also think those events are happening almost in silos, right? So if you think of, I'm going to take an example, like everybody knows or seeing on reports what's going on in LA, right? But it's a small part of LA that's happening, not the larger city. But because the impression is given, it's much, much larger. I'm not minimizing or diminishing what's happening, but it's like some of the reports out there, that's what I mean when I say it's a silo. It's happening in multiple jurisdictions, but it might be a small area within a larger city.
So it sounds like a lot of notice has been taken for a small percentage, and that blows out the overall perspective, I guess, in that terms, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is concerning. I look at the reports, I read the reports, I have access to information in terms of like early on, and I recommend this to anybody, right? Who's, if you're in a certain industry and you're part of an organization, or you're dealing with some governmental departments that have where you can, submit your email and be on a subscription or be a subscriber to their alerts, that's always really important, especially in that particular industry that you're in, because you will get the alerts from the policymakers that will help you in terms of understanding what's going on. So I think that's really important. And that's what we try to do, is we're tapped into receiving alerts from the agencies that we work with. And I think that's really important for anybody.
So interesting. It's so interesting to hear. I want to talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey, primarily taking that step into starting your own practice and building a team, right? And the challenges that come with building a team. Talk to me about your journey in building that team and the lessons that may have come along with it.
Well, we continue to build a team, and it's always continues to be a challenge. That doesn't go away. Right? I think one of the most important aspects of any team building is that your potential team members are dialed into your vision and your objectives. Because if they're not dialed into that, it's going to be counterintuitive. All right. They're going to be swimming against the current, so to speak, in the direction we're going. So I think that's really important. So my team members that I have, we're a very tight-knit team. My team members, we know what our goals are. We know what our objectives are. And that's one of the things that is really important for me. We really tap into, I think, instinctively as well, when you're looking at teams. I mean, you should have an understanding of what you're looking for. Right? So if you're looking for an executive assistant, know what you want your executive assistant to do. If you're looking for an office manager or somebody to head your finance team, you should know what qualities are a must and which ones are desired, right? And most importantly, that interview is so important because there has to be synergy. If there isn't synergy with you and your potential team member, it becomes an uphill battle every day for both. So there has to be synergy.
Absolutely. I think you said some really interesting points there. And synergy is 100% something that it gets overlooked. I think sometimes people can bring other people in for the sake of getting the job done or having someone there that can do what's needed. But actually having someone that works well within the team helps the culture build, helps your synergy with each other. It can make or break a developing team that you're building. So I think that is some interesting points there. I want to talk to you a little bit about AI adoption. It's a popular topic at the moment, albeit some will say it's too early, some will say it's not good enough, some will say it's going to change the world. So I want to really pick your brains in understanding what your thoughts are on AI, on the topic itself, and how you think it might help the legal space.
So I was very resistant to AI. I was, but I've come around to it. So when it comes to AI, I think AI helps. It should be used as a tool to not supplant what you're doing, but to enhance it. So what I mean by that is that AI isn't a tool that you use to create a brief or a complaint or a contract. That's not what it's there for, right? It's there to help make you more productive. So, for example, like sometimes it'll take me an hour to put together an email, right? That time can be utilized more effectively doing some other task. So getting assistance with an email draft that you can then go and refine, that helps you, right? So an email that may have taken an hour now takes 20 minutes. You've saved yourself 40 minutes. Right? Because you know what you want to say. So I think from a productivity level, AI is helpful. But AI shouldn't be used for you to do your case law research or to do your research on the applicable statutes. That's what you were trained to do. So you should be doing that. Right? So it's a tool that you use to make yourself more effective, but it shouldn't replace what you do because, again, the AI is only going to be as good as the user.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the key point is that your clients are coming to you as the expert, right? And you're there to advise them. And as you said, it should be used as a tool to enhance your capabilities, right? So in other words, speeding up time, making you more efficient, making operations internally more efficient, but also leveraging the tools out there to be able to actually provide better insights with less time involved, right? And I know that could be an interesting take, especially in the legal space where the billable hour is very much prominent in the way things work. But I think it's really important to understand that AI isn't the finished article yet, and it's very, very much out there, and it does tell you a little bit of fib every now and again. It's not always factual. It will spurt out whatever you want to actually hear at times. And so having an expert to go, okay, siphon through, okay, you've given me this information. I know how to check the sources, check the information that's actually been given. Is it reliable? Is it not? If a layman on the street decided to search on ChatGPT a certain legislation, that's a different story, right? They're going to get information that might be correct, that might not be correct. And if they use that information, that can be quite detrimental.
Right. Speaking to that, I mean, I'm a proponent, you need to read the legislation yourself, right? But because that's where your knowledge base is. That's how you grow your knowledge base. That's what your clients are engaging you for as the subject matter expertise, right? But sometimes you may not be able to put it succinctly or as effectively, right? So you can say, this is what I want to say. What is the best way to say it, right? Or how do you summarize? Can you summarize this particular section of the bill, right? And then if you see the summary and like, yeah, that's incorrect, that's incorrect, that's incorrect, you have to utilize your own skills and your own experience. And that's where the time management component comes in, right? You can spend, and I have spent 4 hours summarizing because you're just going through a line by making sure you're putting it together. Or you could take that and say, okay, I want this summarized. It comes back to you, you review, and then you start your edit because you have your own notations. I'm old school in that I like to print it out. I write my notes on the side, underline.
Real old school.
I'm very old school. That's right. I'm old school, right? And then once my notations are done, I will, because I'm not sending my notations to my clients, but especially when it comes to like when I do contract review, again, old school, I have my notations. And then after I've completed it, then I will go back into the document and I will redline it or I'll put my comments in so that because for me, it's just, I got it in front of me. That's just how I started. But I know I've got team members who do not do that. They do everything digitally. So it's a balancing.
It's a new world now, isn't it?
It is. It is. I mean, I enjoy, when I started, of course, long ago, I mean, we had a computer lab. We didn't have our own. But as working in an IT and software company exposed me to technology software. So very early on, we've always adopted some of the technologies coming in because I was in an environment that exposed me to it, right? So I loved Adobe because I could then start inserting my comments without having to summarize them in an email and reference the page number and the paragraph, right? You can just put it in the document. We did a lot of cloud-based. And so so when COVID happened, because I also travel a lot, we very much engaged in the cloud platform. So segueing wasn't as difficult, right? So I think AI is the same way. It's you need to recognize it for the efficiencies and the tool that it is, but also recognize its limitations. Do not use it as a replacement for you, but it can be utilized as to complement your talent.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In this segment of the podcast, I like to call the Entrepreneur's Room. And it's a series of questions we'd like to ask all of our guests to give our viewers and listeners an opportunity to understand how business owners and leaders think and operate in their business. So in this section of the podcast, I always like to ask, how are you currently spending your days as a leader of the business?
So I do a lot of, so there's a number of strategic planning. So what I've done is I block my calendar. It's really important to block your calendar for certain types of activities. There's one day which I set aside for client engagement. So if specific clients want to reach out to me, I've set aside days for strategic planning, business planning, road mapping. And so when I'm working on any particular day, it's that day is dedicated to that activity, right? Because you need to put that time aside. If you don't put that time aside, everything is going to be on top of everything. What I do tell my team is I need at least 3 to 5 days. If I need to review something for them, I need 3 to 5 days. So put it on my desk and make sure that, you have 5 days. If you need it the next day, it may not happen because there's an emergency that's going to take precedence, right? So, and then there's time frames that we set aside for addressing any of these ad hoc type of issues with them. And our clients are very good. I try to make myself available for them. So if they need, some of them, because they've been with me for a long time, do have my personal phone. So I'll get a text message, hey, can we have a discussion, or this is what's going on, and we can set up a time frame. But a lot of the strategic planning and the growth of the organization, where we want to go, that is on my shoulders in terms of to come up with. But then we do have also team meetings in terms of discussing where we are, what we want to do, how are we going to do it, and whose role is going to be what within this particular project.
It sounds like you've got a nice mix of working on the business as well as in the business, right? And actually setting aside some time to actually focus on strategy, as well as also being available for clients and also building that team. So it sounds like you've got a nice balance there of trying to hit everything. And obviously starting your own business or running your own business, it's always a case of you're juggling one thing and then something else comes, and it's very much a case of whatever comes in front of you sometimes it almost has to be dealt with, right?
Right. There's certain things that you have to deal with almost immediately, right? And so there has to be that flexibility in your calendar to be able to deal with it and address it. But yeah, we try. I'm not completely responsible for all of that stuff. We always try to project out 3 to 6 months in terms of what our caseload is or what our work and projects are. And that's really important because that helps you in terms of assessing also what is in the pipeline and how you need to, who needs, when do I need to come in, or how is the team and where do we need to have an expansion of a team member if it's necessary. And we'll have also, depending on the project, we might have an independent contractor who comes in and may assist, right? We don't do our website in-house. So if we want to change anything in the website, we do need to plan it out. And sometimes what I will do is we will have schools, teachers have those professional development days, right? We'll have a firm development day in the sense that the firm is closed to clients, emergency access only, while we as a team work on what we need to internally, with everybody having a piece of the puzzle to put together so that at the end of the day, we've accomplished what we needed to, so that come Monday, we're back and fully engaged.
I love it. I love to hear that. As a leader of the business, a lot of the responsibility is on your shoulders in terms of growth, strategy. What are the most important metrics for you when running the business? What do you look at typically on a week-to-week, month-to-month basis?
So for us, the most important thing for us as an organization is to understand what revenue is coming in, right? Because we want to make sure that revenue is coming in order for it to take care of our expenses. If you're not making the revenue, then you're not doing what you're not making yourself and making your life a better place, right? So we're driven by two things, right? One is revenue and the second is clients. We're very much goal oriented. And our goal oriented is what is our goals, our clients' goals in achieving that, right? And the revenue is a large component because our client satisfaction is what drives revenue going forward, right? That client, it will be a repeat client, and that client is also your ambassador for referrals. And the referrals ties back into revenue.
Absolutely. And it's that saying that cash flow is always oxygen in any business, right? And having cash come in, revenue come into the business, it gives you power over your own circumstances, right? It gives you control over how you operate within the business, how you handle your own clients, what kind of projects you do take on, what's the caseload, if you can have more capacity, that type of stuff. So always really interesting. How are you, and you're responsible, as you mentioned, with regards to growth strategy, how are you currently growing the business? And I know you touched on referrals and clients being ambassadors, but what are the core business development activities you're currently doing to grow the business?
So the firm's growth has been majority through referrals. Okay, so we're very much a referral-based business. Part of that referral-based business is building, networking with your brand or your company's ambassadors, right? And so networking is very important. And building those relationships are very important. Being identified as a subject matter expert is very important, right? So when we have all of those, it drives the referral engine. Our clients will do Google reviews. We always request it. We first was like, oh no, we shouldn't have to ask for it, right? Feel uncomfortable asking for it, but no, ours is always as they're coming to an end to a journey or we're done, where they're really happy and we're very happy for them. We will ask if it's not too much, would you be open to providing a referral or a Google review? Reviews will help because they're your clients who've used your services who know what you've done for them. And so those are how we drive, and think to some level the CEOs have been helpful. And again, that is driven by the reviews as well, right? And location. So it's a number of factors, and we continue to see how we can hone on it and build on it and expand on it. Doing a particular activity with XYZ objectives, and if that result doesn't happen, how do you tweak it in order for it to move forward? We've done advertisements, we've done Google. I think we've done Google ads too, especially during certain types of periods that we know are going to happen. And I find that those are not as helpful. That's at least been my experience for my type of business. Because again, we're very bespoke. We're business immigration. We deal with cross-border issues, right? We work with corporations. So we don't do things like deportation or removal or something, right? We don't do that. So I haven't found those helpful, but we've got a contact us page, and we offer either a 15-minute free consult or we offer a paid consult, which is a lot more in depth. And a lot of clients will do the 15-minute consult, and in that consult we can determine we've got that experience to be able to determine if we can help them or not, right? And so I think another really important thing is I think clients or businesses need to have a mechanism for clients to be able to contact them. Mine's a service industry. Mine's not product. So knowing if we can or cannot help is really important, right? Which is why we went to schedule a consult model. That might not work for everybody. So it's going to be what works for you as well.
Absolutely. I think it's really interesting you mentioned there. And I think it's the difference between B2B and B2C, right? And actually having someone, if it's B2C and you're working with deportation or that type of stuff, an individual will search up on Google and type it in. With B2B, you're very much talking with individuals in a corporation, and it's different channels that are required to be able to maximize those opportunities. But I think it's really interesting, some interesting points you mentioned there. Obviously, you've been running a business for many years now, and you've had experience historically previous to that. What is the biggest lessons you can share with us today based off of your experience?
So I think building a team a strong team is very important because your foundation is as strong as that team, that core team, right? So I think team building is really important. Having a vision of where you want to go, because having that vision is going to help you with developing your strategic roadmap or plan to achieve that objective, and always move the needle further once you reach the objective, right? Because that's what it's all about. It's all constantly developing, evolving, moving forward. But the core values should remain the same. And yeah, I mean, at some point it's you have to ask yourself, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want to achieve? Right. And once you've answered that question, the next is what do I have to do to achieve that? So for example, if you want freedom, what does freedom look like to you? Right. And if freedom means, you come in or out of the office, but everything continues to run, that's freedom, right? It's your freedom of choice. Well, what's going to need to happen in order for you to achieve that freedom? So it's that type of, you basically start at the end and move backwards in terms of how to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. Work backwards from your goals. And I guess it's the first principles thinking, right? If you want, what do you want to achieve? And then break it down to the most fundamental points of what do you need to do? What are the behaviors you need to do to be able to achieve what you're looking to achieve? So I think it's really interesting you mentioned there. Indy, it's been an absolute pleasure having you. And thank you so much for sharing your time today. I like to end every single podcast with the same question. And it is, if you had a magic wand you could wave to solve one business problem, what would that be? Every guest is like that. It needs a pause. You need to think about it. It's always there.
Yeah, I think it would be a steady ensuring that the clients are there, the repeat is there, the cash flow is there, because everything flows from that. If you're achieving your revenue goals, then it allows you to invest in the business, expand your team, which then cycles back into building and increasing revenue, which helps you to achieve that end goal of freedom.
Absolutely love it. And couldn't agree more with you there, Indy. And it's a great way to end the podcast. So thank you very much for sharing your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. For all those out there that might want to reach out to you, get in touch, how would they contact you? How would they find you? The
best way is to go to our website because it's got our contact information on it. And that is www.indysidhu.com. That's INDYSIDHU.com.
Perfect. I will put everything into the description anyways for anyone to contact. But yeah, once again, thank you very much for sharing your time, Indy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.